in Miami. And, boy, if Mark Richt can get him past Florida State, man, who knows? My Canes just may be back in the national playoff picture them damn selves. But a few games left to go over there for them as well. So let's get to it here. Number 1, Alabama, as we know. Number 2 in the land is the Ohio State University, Ninja and Jersey's team. Clemson, number 3. The Michigan Wolverines coming up in number 4. And those Washington Huskies on the very outside looking in. They are number 5. 5-0 record there, Pac-12. And like we said, ended McCaffrey's Heisman hopes. Not that he was going to win anything, but it may have even canceled a trip to New York for him. Number 6, you got Houston. That's right, University of Houston, 5-0 in the American Conference. Followed by Louisville at number 7. And I'm real glad Louisville wound up at number 7. They deserve, even in a loss, and I'm going to get to the quarterback later in my Heisman hunt here, but that loss, yeah, they lost, but it shouldn't have bumped them down, so I'm glad to see them at number 7. I shouldn't have bumped them down too much, I should say. So glad to see them at number 7 here. 8, Texas A&M. Tennessee, after their miraculous win, or miracle win, on the Hail Mary there, dethroning Georgia after Georgia took the lead with about 30 seconds left in the game. Tennessee 5-0, stays undefeated in the SEC. And there they are, my Miami Hurricanes at number 10. Wisconsin falls to number 11, and actually a pretty good ranking if you're a Badger fan out there and you're listening to Sports Done Right. You guys got away with one here. I would have put the Badgers a little bit lower maybe, but number 11. And by the way, only lost by a touchdown to Michigan, so a hard-fought game there. They're 4-1, Big Ten West. Another Big Ten West foe of my Minnesota Gophers creeping up, Nebraska, number 12. Tommy Armstrong Jr. really starting to find his way down there in Lincoln, man. This quarterback is really starting to feel good. He's starting to feel confident. You know, he's always kind of played a little bit out of control, like he was nervous all the time. And he's starting to do some big things down there in Lincoln. So Nebraska, 5-0, Big Ten West as well. And folks, I'm going to get to this chat room here in a minute, so keep the chat coming. We got Baylor, 13. They're 5-0 out of the Big 12. Ole Miss is number 14, by the way. And after their stunning loss to Washington, you have the Stanford Cardinal slipping down to number 15, and that is a drop of 8 spots for them. They were number 7 last week in the AP poll. Let's finish it out here. We got Arkansas, number 16. How about North Carolina putting the wood to Florida State? They come in at number 17. The Gators of Florida are 18th. The Boise State Broncos out of the Mountain West, number 19. And the Oklahoma Sooners round out the top 20. 21 through 25, you got Colorado, 4-1 out of the Pac-12, starting to make a little bit of a comeback for the program. They got some real nice players, good solid quarterback play. And look at that, Colorado, the Buffs, coming back hard, man. West Virginia Mountaineers, one of our Stewie's very own cousins, is the running back out there, Jamal Crawford. So Big John, man, your cousin's doing some big things, 4-0. West Virginia in the Big 12. Florida State slips down to 23. The Utes of Utah, University of Utah, number 24, 4-1 out of the Pac-12. And look at this, Virginia Tech coming back out of the ACC, 3-1. Very quietly putting together a nice little season down there in Blacksburg, Virginia. So, man, very good to see Virginia Tech kind of starting to get a little bit of knowledge here, man. Let me go into this chat room, Sports Done Right on Spreaker.com. Make sure you follow us, the Facebook group, Sports Done Right, WRIGHT. You can follow the Gov on Twitter, Vince Wright. Follow me at The Big Smooth One. That's the number 1 after The Big Smooth. Instagram coming and webpage coming as well. Let's get into this chat room here. We got a lot of good people in here tonight. Appreciate all the love, everybody. Grego says, my first game seeing McCaffrey play was last week against Washington. I can't figure out what made him so special. Yep, he ran into a defense that just stopped him cold. And not only stopped him, stopped the entire Stanford Cardinal team. You know, at the time was the number 7 team in the country. say, yeah, may have been overrated or whatnot. But, man, Washington is no joke this year. And Stanford fans, y'all found out. McCaffrey, the thing about McCaffrey, yeah, great college player. Can it transfer over to the pros? Or is this another, for folks in my age group here, they'll remember old Stanford running back touchdown Tommy Vardell. Kind of was doing some things like McCaffrey was doing, got in, unfortunately wound up with Cleveland, didn't really do a whole lot in the NFL. So we'll keep an eye. Obviously, we're going to see what happens to McCaffrey and a few other people. He'll definitely be playing on Sundays, just a matter of with who. All right, what else we got out here? Run CNC, what it do? The Vikings run this-ish. Absolutely, Skull Vikings. What else we got out here? Everybody kind of welcoming each other, hanging out, whatnot. So I will continue here. Let's see. Oh, yes, the Govs Heisman watch, baby. That's what I wanted to talk to you about next, man. Then we're going to get into some Gopher talk a little bit more about the Big Ten, and maybe touch on some of them Southern football teams as well. But let's talk about it now. In the last game, Lamar Jackson, started kind of sloppily, wound up doing phenomenally. And we all know, we all watched the game, phenomenal game. He's still number one in my book for the Heisman, okay? What it does do, the loss, though, is it doesn't give him a lot of room to play with. Kind of shrinks his margin of error, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So Lamar Jackson, still the Govs' number one pick, the quarterback out of Louisville, as my good friend, the Kentucky Colonel, would say, Mike Coffey. Number two, right on his heels all of a sudden. And I do mean right, Deshaun Watson. We saw what he did. Went for 5 touchdowns, had more than 300 yards, rushed for over 100 last week. Outside of those turnovers, however, though, he's got to watch those. But Deshaun Watson, number 2, out of Ohio State. What can you say? JT Barrett, man. Solid as they come. Steady. This guy could play quarterback for me. He can play a whole lot of positions on my team any day. I've really come to respect JT Barrett. He had to go through the Cardell Jones thing, even though Cardell was suckered by his head coach to come back. But Ohio State, they're just solid, and it's all due to JT Barrett. And that's all I can really say. I mean, you can throw stats out, this, and that. And I think he set a record last week with touchdown passes. But, man, JT Barrett is the truth. And if Ohio State happens to win the national championship, it is in large part due to him as well. So, again, folks, thank you for listening. Sports Done Right. All right, so for the home folks here, because I got all my Minnesota people listening, they've been waiting, they've been tweeting, they've been getting at me all week. Gov, what did you think about the Penn State debacle with our home team, the Minnesota Golden Gophers? Well, man, what can you say? The defense, once again, they're just not steady. And while we were able to do some, run on them, Penn State, they come back, they eke out a victory over the Gophers, 29-26. Saquon Barkley scored on a 25-yard run for Penn State's on their first play in overtime, and that's what beat the Golden Gophers. Barkley, their main running back, finished with 63 yards on 20 carries. Penn State, they're 3-2, 1-1 in the Big Ten. And Trace McSorley, he completed 19 of 40 passes for 335 yards and a touchdown. McSorley also added 73 yards on another score for the Nittany Lions as well. And they came back. They were down 13-3 at halftime. And as we say, they come back to win. Now, folks, here's the thing. Yeah, and we're going to talk about the kicker trying to be tough there. Apparently he has an eating disorder now. But I digress. Let me get on to this game here for these Gopher fans here. Now, here's the thing, people, about the Minnesota Golden Gopher defense. I am trying to find the Gopher. Okay, so here we go. Gopher defense gave up 471 yards. Here's the thing. Listen to me. 8 of those plays against the Gopher defense, 8 plays accounted for almost 400 yards of that. Or, yeah, I think it was about 375 to 400, right up in that range. Think of that. 8 plays. That's Gopher football, man. They give up big gains at the most inopportune moments. Penalties, again, a factor as well. We got a late hit on their kicker, the big 270-pound kicker that likes to lay people out. Now, if you look at it, it didn't look all that serious and almost looked like kind of a flop job by the kicker. But what we didn't see, Gopher fans, and it's really important you Gopher fans know this, is that when that hit occurred, the play had literally been over for about 10 seconds, maybe even a little bit more. So it was definitely way after. It was just from where the TV cameras showed, because it was only focused on those 2 players, that we thought the play was still going on. So the refs did make the right call. James Franklin, Penn State coach, much needed win for him. And he says, quote, "I think it is definitely something our players needed. Everyone needed it. There's no doubt about it." Yeah, because, folks, Franklin's on the hot seat out there. Make no mistake about it. You do not have, for obvious reasons, all the shenanigans and bullshiggity things that have gone on with Penn State and Sandusky and everything else. Well, guess what? They're not filling in their stadium out there, so they're not getting that 102, 103,000 anymore. Folks who were at the game that I talked to here and also heard on radio said there's about 75, 80,000 people there. Now, obviously still a huge crowd, but nowhere near Penn State's glory years. So let's take a look how these Gophers do. Mitch Leidner, quarterback, he had 24 of 40 for 241 and a touchdown. Rodney Smith and Shannon Brooks, the Georgia boys, that's right, the Georgia connection, Rodney Smith had 104. Shannon had 100 yards. And the Gophers fall to 3-1 overall. They fall to 0-1 in the Big Ten. Now, Drew Wolotarski, he scored touchdowns for the Gophers as well. So, good for him. Now, Emmett Carpenter, our field goal kicker, had 4 field goals, including the go-ahead one. That was a 37-yard with just under a minute to play. Things were looking so good for us. But, again, the Gophers can't hold it. Penn State comes back. Gophers, and I put this on the Sports Done Right page, man. They're just not a serious program yet. Gopher fans, I know we get teased here and there. We had the New Year's Day Bowl a couple years ago. Jerry Kill, all that stuff. Still not a serious program. The Gophers are, and this is what was, I took this from gophersports.com. The Gophers are a scrappy bunch and will have a shot to hang a lot of Big Ten teams, or to hang with a lot of Big Ten teams with Leidner and their running backs if they're playing well. Leidner bounced back from a shaky start where he was 0-4 against the Blitz, completed his next 5 passes. Now Penn State, on the other hand, after falling into a 13-3 halftime deficit, going 0 for 7 on third downs in the first half, came back, got the momentum. Their fans really got into the game. I think that was very key for them. And Joe Moorhead and the offense got back on track with big plays after halftime. Penn State got 190 yards of offense, 156 of them coming on deep passes against Minnesota's shorthanded secondary. And that's the thing, man. Gophers are still injured in the secondary. And guess what? They got Iowa coming into town playing for Floyd of Rosedale, a trophy game, one of the most coveted trophies in all of college sports. We got to get the pig back, man. You got to get the pig back, but that'll be this Saturday, 11 a.m. is the start time. And Iowa, by the way, is 3-2 all of a sudden, and they were the favorites, including the Govs favorites, to win the Big Ten West. Doesn't look that way anymore. So 11 a.m. will be the game. Should be on either ESPN2 or one of the ESPN channels, I believe. If you start winning, you get better start times. But let me tell you something. The way the Gophers are playing, the crowd still being kind of lackluster, this start time is not going to help Gopher fans. And I'm telling you, man, I've been hearing Gophers There's been a lot of Iowa fans purchasing tickets.